now.
We are now on the recording. Hello, everyone. I'm Dolores. I'm one of the members of Crying Out Loud for Quality Dementia Residential Care. And we are sponsoring this panel discussion about where we want to go next. After we solve the major problems, where do we want to go in terms of what does good quality dementia care look like? So welcome to everybody. We want to acknowledge that we're coming to you from the traditional territory of the Comox people, where we live as guests, and we thank them. For the audience, we're hoping that you will put your who you are, where you're from, what your interest is in the chat room, and then we can all sort of share that information. I see someone has asked, yes, only the panelists have sound at this point, because otherwise it gets really noisy. We're expecting at least 50 people, and it would be just too noisy if everybody's dogs and cats and stuff were barking and whatever. So only the panelists have sound for now, and we'll see how the discussion goes later. So the chat rooms for telling us who you are and how you're doing, and what your interest is, and any other comments you want to send to each other. It's one of the nice interactive things about this kind of media. There is also a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, probably at the bottom. It says Q&A, and if you put questions in there after the panelists have presented, then we'll sort through those questions and field them out to the panel for discussion. So what we're going to do, we're going to hear from all of our 4 panelists, starting with Liz Friis, then Kelley Romeril, and Bev Powell, and then ending with Brenda Phillips. And we're going to ask each panelist to give a short introduction about who they are and why they're here, and then give us about a 10-minute presentation. Now, Bev Foster has a timing sign. Do you want to show us? Time. And she will hold it up when you hit the 9-minute mark. And then if you go to 11 or 12 minutes, she'll start waggling it like crazy. And it'll be very embarrassing. So don't do it, because we won't have time for the audience to have their questions asked as well. And then I'm going to ask each of the panelists to sort of pass the walking stick to the other one, instead of me jumping in and interfering and taking up more time. So it'll go Liz, Kelley, Bev, and then Brenda, and then the audience questions. So shall we start? Are we ready? Kelley? No, not Kelley. There, I've screwed it up already. Liz.
Thank you, Dolores. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Liz Friis. I am the Director of Resident Lifestyle and Community Programs at Glacier View Lodge. I have been passionate and working with residents, seniors, particularly those with dementia care, for the past 39 years. So when you ask the question, what does dementia care look like? It came down to one core thing for me, and that's about developing relationships. And I believe that relationships are developed through genuine caring for another person and by adapting our communication approaches. When we meet someone new, we tend to defer to social chit chat. Isn't the weather fabulous today? Did you see the daffodils popping up? Oh, those cherry trees, they're so beautiful. And those are social pleasantries that are lovely, but really don't help us form a relationship. Thoughtful communication is the key to developing relationships. At Glacier View Lodge, we're really big fans of 2 different approaches. One is the positive physical approach that was developed by dementia specialist Teepa Snow, and the other is the moments of joy philosophy defined by recreation therapist Jolene Brackey. So TIPA starts all of her connections with people with a physical connection. She shakes their hand. And you know, when we shake hands with people, we gaze our gazes and we look into each other's eyes, and we're actually strengthening our connection in that moment. What we might not realize is that we're actually stimulating activity in each other's brain through the connection of that main sensory pathway, which is the palm of our hand. It's also a gauge that lets us know how someone else is feeling. If you've shook hands with someone who's very sad, maybe that handshake is very loose and weak and timid. Someone angry might have a very firm grasp. So for the person working with someone with dementia, it's also a barometer of how they're feeling. And that's really good information that helps guide you to the next part of your conversation. If the person with dementia is worrying about something, they might be able to tell you. And sometimes you need to be more of a detective. Recently, one of our ladies named Jane said, "I really need to get home. Can you take me home?" And that's something we hear a lot. So TIPA recommends that you repeat in that same tone of voice what the resident has said to you or the person with dementia has said to you. So I said to Jane, "You're really looking to get home." "Yes," she replied. And this piece of acknowledgement of her wish is critical in order to continue the conversation. Someone who feels as though their worries are dismissed may get angry with you or just walk away looking for someone else that will help them. The reality for me is that I can't help Jane return to a physical place. And I need more information. Is Jane looking for the home that she's just moved from? Is she looking for one where she raised her children, or maybe the home that she lived in with her parents? But maybe just as likely, she's not looking for an actual location, but a place that feels familiar to her, where she feels safe and where she was loved. TIPA Snow now recommends that the next step is to ask the person to tell me about home. Tell me about your home. And that is the point at which TIPA's approach and Jolene Brackey's Moments of Joy philosophy come together. They intersect here. Jolene speaks about knowing the details of a person's life so that you have that information to trigger positive lifetime memories. So I might say to Jane, "I grew up in an Air Force family and we moved to many different places in Canada. One of those places was Summerside, PEI. You and John were newlyweds when he was posted to Summerside, weren't you?" Now, it doesn't matter where I lived or where I grew up, that's immaterial. But what is important is that I've now triggered a memory that is positive for Jane. At this point, Jane's smile grew as she acknowledged our connection. "You were there?" "Yes," I replied, "but I was very young. I remember it best from vacations as an adult. Will you tell me about your time there? Did you socialize at the base?" There's a lot of different questions I could ask. Did you go to the country dances in the barns? Did you live in the PMQs or did you live somewhere closer to the shore? There's a lot of questions I could ask about someone's experience as a military wife, the couple's special time as newlyweds, or the sights and sounds and smells of PEI, like the red sand of Cavendish Beach, the Celtic music, card parties, corn boils, or lobster suppers. Is that making anyone else hungry? Over time, Jane will gravitate to people who spend a few minutes to talk to her about the things that were important in her life, not just passing time with nice social chit chat. She will intuitively know that even though she can't remember our conversations, that is a person that will spend some time and support her, that they know her on a level that's much deeper. So over time, hopefully, the plan is that Jane's request to go home will phase out as she gets more loving and trusting relationships built wherever she is. At Glacier View Lodge, we embed these practices into our care through a number of different techniques. So I'd like to share those with you. On the very first day that employees begin with us, they attend a general orientation. And a big part of that now is talking about the culture at our facility and the philosophies that underlie the kind of care that we want to provide. The Moments of Joy philosophy and the positive physical approaches are two of those philosophies that we spend an awful lot of time on. And then, of course, all of those are repeated in any education that we're offering. We do daily huddles at the lodge where a group of staff get together to talk about the priorities of the day. But we now start those with asking people to share a moment of joy. We ask anyone from any unit to tell us what's a wonderful thing, what's a heartwarming thing that's happened on your unit today. It's so integral to letting a bigger group of people know about the special events in each of our residents' lives and what really triggers a positive time for them. We collect social histories in a way that gathers lifetime events that bring us back to moments when people felt pride, a sense of achievement, success, as well as the special events and people that shape their lives. We share that information on our care plans, and we have posters inside of every room so that when staff go in to talk, that they can choose a topic that's not just nice social chit chat, but something that was important to each person. We start each of our care conferences with the telling of the resident story. That is a fabulous reminder to everyone present that we're about to talk to someone who's had a rich and full life and that we need to honor who they were. We talk with families also to engage them to create life history books or memory boards for their room. These are fabulous places to begin a conversation. Tell me about these people in this photograph. So that's just a great way to talk about something that's meaningful. We also invite families to bring something into their visits. Perhaps it's mom's favorite flower and mom enjoyed flower arranging, or she was a gardener, or she loved to go visit amazing gardens. Whatever it was, bringing flowers will help be a trigger for that discussion. Or maybe they would bring a memento that was important to that person's life. We've been studying a little bit about Dr. David Sheard. He's another brilliant dementia specialist, talks about the stuff of life. He recommends that we fill the residents' environment with objects that are familiar to them, items that are personal and meaningful that can bring comfort to the resident and help them feel at home. His philosophy centers around emotional comfort. I saw this, I'm getting the time thing. So I'm down to my last paragraph. Okay. I saw that witnessed with a lady that we had every afternoon. She would worry that her daughter didn't know where she was, that she didn't care about her anymore, that she never saw her. And so we asked the daughter to put together a box of items that really filled that lady's stuff of life. And in the box was her perfume, her scarf, some of her costume jewelry, and a number of other items. And so the staff would say, "Oh, you're looking for your daughter? That reminds me. She dropped this box off for you this morning before she went to work. And she said she'd be in a little later." And it never failed to bring a smile to that resident's place and help her settle and understand that her daughter still loved her and cared about her. So none of those strategies are terribly costly to implement, but it does need buy-in from a big group of your staff. So it creates the need for champions within the organization to keep talking about what moments of joy are, how we need to communicate effectively to help new staff practice those skills as well. And for all of us just to be creative and on the ball every day. How's that? Kelley.
Thanks, Liz. That was great. I'm going to steal some of those ideas if that's okay. Hi, I'm Kelley Romeril. I'm the Therapeutic Recreation Manager at Comox Valley Seniors Village and Casa Loma. I have been in this role for about 2 years now and working in long-term care about 5 years. So I am quite humbled to be included in this panel with such experienced and knowledgeable folks. So I'm going to be learning along with many of you today from their expertise as well. I am passionate about supporting those aging in care, especially those aging in care with dementia. And I believe, much as Liz talked about, in a very individualized approach, focusing on the strengths and goals of each resident and building a plan of care that really is informed by the family, by the resident, by their community of love. And all of that is put into their care plan, and that care plan informs every decision that a facility makes in regards to caring for that individual. And that's really what I believe constitutes quality dementia care. Today, I wanted to talk about one area that is important to me in my role here, and also I believe is an area that we are seeing some shifts in dementia care for our folks living in facility, and that area is around our recreation program, or our therapeutic recreation programs that we have in facility. The standard of care, or the standard of recreation programs in the recent history, has really been a focus on quality, dynamic, small group or large group programming, offering events and socials and fitness classes and all of these things. And they're great, and you can be really successful with those things. Unfortunately, those programs often only reach about 20 to 50% of the folks living in care, and you've got another 50% sitting there with very little engagement throughout the day or the week. When COVID happened and everything got stripped away, we weren't allowed to do group programming anymore. And as a recreation team, we really had to take a step back and think about, what are we providing when we're providing these programs? How can we adapt that to a one-to-one model? And what are we going to do to fill this day? As we started with a one-to-one model, and all of our staff hours in recreation started to go to these individual engagements, we noticed probably something that we'd known all along but never really cemented in our brain, is that those one-to-one engagements were much more meaningful, were much more important to our residents than anything we could do in a group programming. And so we got a taste of that. We got to spend 4 months only doing one-to-one programming, and we noticed across the board our engagement with every single resident, not just the 30 to 50% that were coming to group programming, was more. They were more engaged, they were more involved, they were happier overall. So as group programming got added back into our calendar, we were allowed to start doing small group programming. We really started to reevaluate what group programming we offered, when we offered it, and why we offered it, and how much of it to offer. Because of course, dynamic group programming is still wonderful. It can be successful, and there are many residents who thrive with that dynamic programming. But we also want to allow plenty of time for one-to-one programming. We want to allow plenty of time for that individual engagement, and really be able to touch each and every resident living in our facility. And so how we've been able to do that, or how we're starting to do that, because we're still learning and testing and trying, together with my staff, we're training and learning together on how to recognize those opportunities for individual engagement, how to provide time and space for those opportunities, providing more staffing hours to one-to-ones, providing comfort rounds, spending time just being on the units, and providing those small items of comfort, whether it's a cup of tea, a sweater, a quick chat, a prayer, a handhold, all of those things that take just a few minutes of our day to really, like Liz said, create a moment of joy to engage. We're learning the same things here, and I love some of the strategies that they're using at Glacier View as well, and how well it ties into the philosophies that we're trying to implement here at the Comox Valley Seniors Village. We're really moving more towards a unit-based approach versus a a recreation calendar that focuses on the activities themselves, focusing on the individuals living on a particular unit, what their individual goals are, what the shared goals are of that small community or neighborhood, and how we can meet those goals through both group programming and one-to-one engagement. It's a really exciting time in recreation therapy, and I'm really excited to be building this program with my team here. Now, of course, as Dolores said at the beginning of the panel, that this presupposition of this panel is that, you know, the funding has been fixed, the staffing shortages have been fixed in long-term care, but we all know that we're not there yet. I wish we were, but we're not there. We're taking steps towards that as a province, as a country, but we're not quite there yet. So I do think there are some things that we can do now to improve the quality of dementia care right from the very beginning. And those beginnings are, one, through the education of our staff. Of course, at the site level, we are providing education, and we are trying to ensure that the staff have the resources that they need to provide good care for our folks living here in care. But unfortunately, by the time they get to the site, it's a little bit too late for day 1, 2, 3, week 6. We need to have that dementia care happening at the university or the college level where these folks are receiving their training, in the LPN training, the care aid training, the rec or activity aid training. More focus on dementia care, more focus on communication support, getting to know your residents, how to distract, redirect in a loving, caring way. So that day 1, our staff are feeling equipped and confident in their knowledge of how to support somebody living with dementia. And in going hand in hand with that, also more support for the families. As a community, we need to come together and provide better resources for families who have a loved one who's living with dementia from day 1, from diagnosis, not the day they enter facility, when we have support from social workers and we have a skilled staff to help come alongside the families. We need to provide that from the beginning. More access to social work and counseling, more access to resources, respite funding, advanced care planning, education and support. All of these things can provide a better quality of life for our members of our community that are living with dementia from the very beginning. And that is what I would love to see, a holistic approach to quality dementia care from the very day that someone is diagnosed or begins to suffer from the symptoms of dementia. I know I am getting close to my time here, so I'm going to wrap up and pass it on to Bev, who I'm very excited to hear what she has to say today. I really appreciate being a part of the conversation today, and I look forward to continuing this conversation in the days, weeks, and years to come with this community. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Kelley. I'm Bev Powell. I'm former administrator and director of care of Erin Glen Lodge in Qualicum, former director of care of Glacier View Lodge, former owner-operator of the group home for dementia clients in the Okanagan. I've spent a total of 30 years working with seniors. My mother suffered the indignities of dementia in care for 10 years. And I failed at retirement and took on a part-time job working with special needs clients in the Comox Valley. So, and when this opportunity came up, I thought, well, I don't know what I have to offer that will be different than what other perspective can I offer. And then I thought, well, I found it quite different working with special needs people, but they have a framework that they work with for people that have cognitive disabilities at the beginning of life. And it makes sense that there's a relationship between that framework and people with cognitive disabilities at the end of their life. And so I would like to present the quality of life framework that's used for special needs. And just think of it as how it applies to dementia care at the end of life, and see what you think. So this quality of life framework was put together by asking thousands of people with disabilities what mattered to them in their life. And that is how they came up with the 8 domains of quality of life that people working with special needs are asked to speak to, how they are supporting and helping with those areas of quality of life. And I really like this framework because that's what everybody wants, is quality of life for their people and for themselves too. And so we can apply it to our workers, to our families, and to our residents. So those domains of quality of life that they're talking about include physical well-being. So physical health, activity, are they safe? Do they have adequate medical care? I'm just going to gloss over these quickly. These can be found on the CLBC website for those of you who want to look it up later. Emotional well-being is the feeling of emotion. Are they emotionally safe, have a positive sense of self, and trust the people in their lives? Interpersonal relations, which Liz said was one of the most important things, and there it comes up again as something of quality of life. Individuals have meaningful relationships with families, friends, and people around them. Material well-being has the financial resources to do the things that matter to them. Personal development, pursue their interests with necessary support. Self-determination, opportunities to make choices and decisions. Social inclusion is participate in and contribute to their community and have a feeling of belonging. And rights, individuals have some autonomy and their decisions are respected. So I do think there's a way to apply these to dementia care. And my thought would be to review the quality of life framework at the CARE conference so that the medical plan and the quality of life plan mesh and the family can participate. I like that everybody can get on board with contributing to quality of life as a common goal. And I like that it's not a task that's assigned to one department like activities. It's everyone's job. So under physical well-being, is our resident physically healthy and active? Can they participate in exercises or walks? Or do they need some range of motion done for them? What do we do to support their physical well-being? Under emotional well-being, how do the interactions that they have with the staff and other residents make them feel? What do staff do to make them feel like they can be trusted? Liz, you already spoke about that, the type of communication. How do you build that relationship that fosters emotional well-being? How would you rate their self-esteem right now? Are they comfortable in their own skin? Are they confused about where they are and what's happening to them? What can we do to support their emotional well-being? Interpersonal relationships, do the individuals have meaningful relationships with friends and family, or social relationships with the staff that deal with them? As they recognize and converse less over time, what can we do to keep supporting those relationships? Do we use FaceTime? Do we send photos? Do we assign volunteer visitors for people who don't have families nearby? What is the quality of those interactions that the staff have with them? And Liz, you already spoke to this. Do all staff know that how they interact with the resident impacts their quality of life? Financial well-being. Now we tend to stay out of the money side of things when we get to long-term care, but does the person have enough resources for his comfort? Does he have that little bit extra that he could be spent to augment his care with an outing, a paid companion, reflexology, massage for relaxation? As a family member, are there things that would ease your load that you could spend a little money on? Do we have family members who would contribute financially to enhance the comforts? Are there organizations that this person belonged to that would love to sponsor music therapy on their behalf? It's an awkward conversation to talk about money, but you know, if you save it for when it's raining, recognize it's raining and spend it. Personal development is pursuing interests with necessary supports. So are there past interests that trigger happy memories? Back to the memories again, but you know, do they trigger happy memories or even muscle memory? What would it take to maintain and support that interest? What activities do they like to participate in? Is there an activity that the family could do when they come to visit? Self-determination is about offering choices and supporting the things that they can still do themselves. So as a care aide with limited time, it's just quicker to do it yourself. But actually supporting independence and offering choices that they're able to make adds to their quality of life. And there's a bit of knack to offering choices. For example, if we ask Martha whether she wants to get dressed, she could be in her pajamas all day. But if we say to Martha, do you want to wear the red dress or the blue dress today? Martha gets dressed and gets a choice. And staff at all levels can identify choices that they can offer to residents. Social inclusions. How do our individuals participate in their community? Unfortunately, with COVID, community participation is sort of turned into social seclusion, as we call it. And we recognize what a toll that's taken on our seniors. But in general, you do see people with disabilities out in our parks and our community centers and events. How do we keep them part of the community? And when they're not mobile and it's not easy to get them out anymore, how do we bring the community in and keep that connection going so that our facilities are not places of isolation? They really are embedded and part of our communities. And the last one is rights. Individuals are included in their decision-making and their voice is respected. Unfortunately, once a person has a dementia diagnosis, many of their rights with regards to decision-making are taken away due to competency. But it's still important to include people in decisions made that affect them, and for families to honor their input from earlier times. I will tell you about having to take a fellow with Down syndrome into the social services office and put my hand over his to put an X on a piece of paper because he needs to be informed and a part of the decisions about his for him. So quite different than how we treat people with dementia at the end of life. So we measure a lot of things in long-term care, and mostly we measure indicators of quality care. You know, anything that we can count, we count. So we count wounds, falls, number of medications, weight gain and loss, bowel movements, violent outbursts. And we also know that when we measure things, they improve. So quality of life is a more person-centered approach. And how different would our care be if we counted the number of times the residents smiled, time spent with others, number of choices offered and made in a day, and what community involvement did we do today? So I know that our activity departments keep track of who attended what program, but if we actually measured reflections of quality of life, then the quality of life for those residents with dementia would improve. And contributing to quality of life can be a common goal for the entire support team, including family and friends. In the CARE conference, by addressing the domains of quality of life, families could actually contribute and own part of the plan. For example, imagine I can't manage my spouse's physical care, but I can keep some social connectedness going. I can arrange for him to be taken out in the community. The Legion was where he really felt like he belonged. I wonder if some of his buddies from the Legion would come and visit him and shoot the breeze. The hardest thing about visiting is how difficult the conversations are. My wife loved music and dancing. What if I recorded some of her favorite tunes and I get her dancing or singing along when I visit? I think that quality of life is really what everybody wants as an outcome for our residents. And making it up front and foremost in our minds when we approach our visits, our jobs, our interactions would ensure that it happens. The education piece for this is already presented in our colleges for the community support workers. So promoting independence, offering choices, finding opportunities to be included in their community. Be very easy for the college to include it as a module in the Care Aid program as well. And schools are teaching kids at a young age to be tolerant and accepting of people with disabilities and that they are part of our community. So that piece is already started. And so what I'm suggesting is not a big, expensive leap. It's just sort of reframing our common goal and prioritizing the outcomes that we all want for people with dementia. Those are my thoughts. Over to you, Brenda.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Brenda Phillips, Director of Resident Lifestyles and Community Programs here at the Views at St. Joseph's. And I have been working with people with dementia for the past 33 years and have been here at the Views for 22 of those 33 years. So my role here is vast and varied, but in a nutshell, I oversee all aspects of bringing joy and purpose and fun, spontaneity, meaningful days and moments of joy, as what Liz and Kelley and Bev have all talked about, of these moments of joys for our residents. I'm sure we all agree that this past year of living through COVID has been challenging for us all. And we have been without our family members and volunteers for such a long time here at the Views and other residential care facilities. So this greatly has impacted how we've been able to run our programs, and Kelley spoke to how that shift happened from groups to one-to-one. But I am very proud to say that we had pivoted well with the constant changes and have brought adaptations to the forefront to overcome some of the barriers here at the Views. So my topic that I would like to share with you all is innovative technology for quality dementia care. And we know once COVID hit many of us, including myself, we all learned about this thing called Zoom, and I think we're all still learning. My 83-year-old mother is now our family Zoom organizer every week so that she can chat with all her children and her grandchildren, great-grandchildren. She is also the organizer of creating PowerPoint presentations for her church for their virtual online Sunday services. So COVID has really pushed us a bit into the world of technology. And technology has given us that window of opportunity to explore many different types of tools. And this is especially true for quality dementia care. So I'm slowly getting on board with this, and now just really scraping the surface of what is possible with technology and how this relates to dementia care and how we can improve dementia care. When we talk about music therapy and art therapy, horticultural therapy, I think the future will have someone that is really delivering technology therapy. I think it's coming. But don't get me wrong, I still believe that a human being providing compassionate and a loving presence is the best care that we can offer our folks with dementia. And we talked a little bit about that already. There really is no substitute for one-to-one personal touch and presence. What the person can offer, however, with technology is just another tool in our toolbox that we can use. And this is where the potential lies. So I'm going to give you 3 examples of what I've discovered so far in technology. So the first is just the regular mobile tablet, and we've all worked with our tablets and our iPads, and so not only we have already used them for family Zoom meetings, but they can offer so much more with people with dementia. So I am now just discovering a new software platform called IN2L, and it stands for It's Never Too Late. So there is a YouTube video about this that can definitely describe this so much better than I. And I think this was the 8-minute video, Dolores. We're not going to show this one, but maybe we can share the link in the chat. I wanted to have that available for people to look at their leisure. And it's also something that family members and our volunteers can use, or other caregivers can use in the home. So just to give you a brief summary, it provides engagement with residents through all levels of dementia to provide quality of life. Some of the programs include armchair traveling, music and art applications, matching words and symbols for cognitive function, and so much more. So we're pretty excited here at The Views. We're expecting our tablets to arrive tomorrow. We've got 3 of them coming, and we're ever so grateful to our Comox Valley Auxiliary for Healthcare for donating the funds to purchase these. So these tablets offer content-driven engagement to support social interaction, cognitive and physical exercise and therapy, education for staff as well. And Liz, I believe, talked about Teepa Snow, and her videos are pretty amazing for a learning tool. And all of this is available as an app on this tablet for staff and family caregivers. Reminiscing, areas of interest, memory, support, and more and this is all touch screen. So this is ideal for both group engagement and individual experiences. So they are widely versatile, mobile, and can be used to engage residents at any level of cognitive ability. And they can also be set up for individual profiles. So specific photos, video, and music that are meaningful for individual residents can be accessed through the tablets. So this provides meaningful interactions. And we talked about relationships and relationship building, and how we talk about specific photographs that might be meaningful, or a piece of music, and we can just pull that up on the tablet and create those many moments of joy. The second piece of technology I would like to share is called the Abby. And this again is fairly new to us here at The View. It's an interactive device that is mounted on a wall within a care home, specifically for dementia. And it is situated in locations that's very accessible for people that are walking by. So it's very interactive. So Abby really stands for Ambient Activity Technology. And it's an opportunity to engage in meaningful activity as a non-pharmaceutical means of managing responsive behavior. It provides opportunities for residents to engage with familiar activity experiences such as petting a cat or turning a steering wheel. When a resident interacts with any of the Abbey's activity functions, Abbey will play pre-selected and familiar pictures, videos, and songs to trigger a memory. So mounted to the wall, Abbey is available to residents on a 24/7 basis with little support required by care providers. So we are now getting quite familiarized with this here at the Views. We now have 2 resident profiles uploaded into the Abbey with familiar songs, videos, and photos. Residents are able to interact independently as they have a beacon attached with a safety pin. So when our resident is interacting, all of their individual profiles will automatically come up to the screen. It also has a public, what's called a public profile, and that could be for anybody just coming up for this screen and being able to interact with Abbey. So Dolores, are you able to show the video and share that with us? It's about a 3-minute video. Can everybody hear the sound? No.
Can't hear it.
I'm not sure if anyone can hear the sound playing.
Yeah.
But just to give everybody a bit of an idea of what the Abbey looks like, I know he's bringing up different or specific profile of a resident who's of Chinese descent, and those particular videos and songs and pictures are specific to that one particular person.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Dolores. I think what we could do too is put that link up. Oh, sorry.
It is.
Link up in the chat and people can watch that again. Just very quickly, I know I'm running out of time. The third piece of technology that I wanted to talk about is the power of music through either tablets or iPods. And again, music can reach so many of our folks with dementia. And we've been using music as a tool for many years, and research suggests that listening to or singing songs can provide emotional and behavior benefits for people with Alzheimer's disease and other types of dementia. And it's a very, very simple piece of technology. We can either use CD players, as I say, our iPods or tablets. And yeah, music is I just can't stress enough how important it is for people with dementia, and that to use that tool in your toolbox as well, in increasing quality of care. So those are just 3 examples of technology. I know there's other things that are out there that are very exciting and interesting if you just go on the internet and type in technology for quality dementia care, the sky's the limit. And I think it's just going to get better and better as the future goes on in technology. So thank you, Dolores. I know I was asked as well to talk about the village, but I don't know what your time is or how much, or if you'd like to have questions answered first.
Let's do the village. Can you do the village for about a minute or 2?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, of course. Yes, so here at the Muse, we're very, very excited that Providence Living is, we are building our village here in Comox. So the vision includes smaller households with access to nature in a village-like setting. So we have 156 publicly funded long-term care beds, including what we are calling self-contained households of 12 private rooms within the village. So some of the designs, I know there's been a lot that's been talked about in the media, and there was a town hall that had a presentation around the village. So there is lots of information on our website around the village and the development. But some of the principles, including promoting freedom of movement, safe access to the outdoors, interaction with the community, including opportunities for intergenerational connections. We will have a children's daycare on site with our art studio, a bistro, and chapel. So we're hoping construction will start in winter of 2022, but rest assured there is amazing work going on right now with the planning and development of the village. And so we are very, very excited that this is coming to us. And again, it's, when we talk about quality dementia care, this is an opportunity for us to engage in that work in this new build. So we're very, very excited about it.
Okay, thank you, Brenda, and thank you to all of our panelists. Fascinating discussion and really interesting ideas. The beginning of getting things into action is having the concepts and the ideas, and I think you're helping us develop those, and I really look forward to seeing how this goes on in the future. So jumping into the questions and answers, Joan asked, who can assess quality of care? How can families contribute? And what kind of consequences could there be if quality of care is below the standards, assuming that standards can be developed? That's a huge question. I don't know who wants to take a first crack at that. Bev, maybe you have.
I'll give it a stab. Certainly, first of all facilities are accredited, and that is national and international standards set for long-term care facilities. all facilities are licensed, and we have provincial community care licensing act that sets standards for care in long-term care facilities. So really there are several bodies that are forever looking and checking on how you're meeting the standards of care. One of the standards, of course, is interactions with families and letting your families know how they can complain if they are feeling that the standards are not being met. So there is a mechanism for that, and all families should be aware of that. And if not, they can certainly ask when they visit. So yes, the standards are set. They're based on best practices. It's a moving target. And so you might meet the standards this year, and in 3 years, your accreditation standards may change, and they're based on what happens across the country in long-term care facilities. I suspect after COVID that there will be another whole set of standards about what happens in an outbreak in the future.
Okay. Anybody else got something else to add to that? No? It does seem to me
I would like to say something, Dolores.
yes.
Sometimes if the facility has a family council, might be a way of bringing up some of these questions that you might have, and to get information about, who do you talk to, where do you go next? I'm not sure. Not all facilities have a family council. So anyways, might be one place.
Yeah, that is an idea. I was really interested actually, Bev, when you started talking about, you said anything we can count, we count. And standards are based on that counting. And then you did suggest that, you could count how many times a resident smiled in a day. And actually you could, because often it's not that many times a day. So anyway, I think that's a really interesting thing to gauge a quality as opposed to a quantity. So there. Now, Mary is asking, how do we go about bringing changes to the 500 care homes across BC? There are some that are helpful, but so many more that need help to change and progress. That's an enormous question. So who's got any ideas on that? Come on, Liz.
Again, I'll go back to the standards that Bev has referred to with licensing and with Accreditation Canada and the other accreditation bodies. Those are really standards that we all need to live up to. Not everyone has to participate in the accreditation process though. And so that might be a way to encourage those other facilities to take part in accreditation.
Okay, yeah.
I think so too, Dolores, that this webinar and this type of forum and conversations and, is very helpful. And this is helpful, getting your word out too. And I think that's good on you. I'm just going to say that. It's a really good step. And that's, one person can make a change, and you get a lot of people making changes, then you'll get results.
Yeah, one can shift the sort of social acceptability of like what kind of care is socially acceptable for dementia. And I think our society is starting to do that, I hope. Anyway,
Absolutely, Dolores. I just jump in really quick on that along those lines. I think awareness is the first step, and activities like this, and the more we talk about it and the more we make the community as a whole, not just the family community who's dealing with this, but the community as a whole, aware of what's happening in long-term care, the shifts that need to happen. That's where the change starts, with that awareness first, because for a lot of the history of long-term care, if you weren't involved in it personally, you didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah. COVID has changed that a little bit. There's a few good things coming out of that nasty bug. Kathleen was asking if the dementia training for students, and I assume for staff too, includes cognitive decline from MS, because she says it's very different and not many people have a clue what you're talking about when issues arise. Anybody have any experience or comments about, we know about Parkinson's MS, but what about, or Parkinson's dementia, but what about MS dementia?
So there are so many different types of dementia. I have to say that I'm showing my age now, but when I went through school, there was dementia or not dementia. And of course, now we have vascular dementia, Parkinson's dementia, MS dementia. We have dementia from stroke. We have dementia from seizures. We have a true Alzheimer's. We have Alzheimer-like dementia. There is a huge list. So really the education is more around the similarities of all of those dementias. It's more of a generalized knowledge than specific. And it's really the geriatric nurses that go into far more detail on the types of dementia and how they differ. So I would say at the care aid level, we're still struggling with enough education on general dementia without going into the specifics of each cause of dementia right now.
I would agree with that. In the activation assistant program, we probably touch on the top 6 most common types of dementia and do a little bit of study there, but that's about it.
Absolutely. And maybe the solution to that is just, again, letting people know that there are all of these different types of dementia, and how do I find out more? So when I encounter someone who has dementia because of MS or vascular dementia or Lewy body dementia, where do I find out more about that specific type, and making those resources readily available to the staff on the floor so that they can feel empowered to get that information when they need it.
Yeah, this all sparks an idea in my mind, which is that maybe the next webinar that Crying Out Loud does will be around doctors and the linkage between families and diagnosis and those resources. Greta.
I'd like to also say, and I wonder, Kelley, if family members couldn't be a part of this education process to help the staff understand what kind of dementia your loved one has and what this, what the symptoms are, what are strategies that you've used at home over the last number of years that have worked, and what they might be able to use. If there was an avenue for that to happen, an opportunity for the family members to be able to talk about their loved one, about their dementia.
Absolutely. I think that that's a great idea. Of course, supposing that there is a family there that has those resources and has taken it upon themselves to learn that. So kind of goes back to that piece of where do we get those resources for families as well, right from the very beginning. But I absolutely agree. And I think it speaks very closely to what Liz and Bev and Brenda talked about, is involving the families in that care planning, building the program or the plan for each person around their personal needs, and bringing in their family, their medical providers, their community, while you're building that care plan, and as keeping that as a continuous process, keeping all of those people involved right through the entire time that they're in our community.
Yeah. We have a couple more questions here I'd like to squeeze in if we can. One is from Ruth, who's saying, what kind of support is being considered or offered to dementia residents and their families as we come out of COVID? I suspect a lot of PTSD type effects may emerge and will need addressing by facilities in the interests of holistic care for residents, family, and caregivers.
Very good.
I'll speak from my experience at Glacier View Lodge, and what we've seen is that our residents who are surrounded by loving and caring caregivers all day and by the other residents on their unit have not possibly struggled as much as our family members have. Our family members have really felt the separation in a much deeper way than everyone else. So things that we've been doing along the way is staying in good touch with our family members, letting them know when provincial policy loosens up and when we can increase visitation. We have done the best that we can to support lots of virtual technology. We involve families still in the same ways in the care conference process. So there's been a lot of movement to reach out to families virtually, but they're the ones that have struggled the most in this.
Yeah, that's for sure. Jocelyn, in the chat room, you've been asking a lot of questions, but they're very specific care questions, and I'd love to talk with you afterwards. So if, with your permission, I will email you. And one last question from Sarah, who is a family caregiver and training to become a registered healthcare aide. And she wants advice on how she can contribute to positive systemic change as a care aide.
Wow.
I can just say we love you for coming into healthcare. And we love you that you have the passion and the just the excitement to learn more. And I think you've just made that first step, that you did that wonderful, had that wonderful decision to come into healthcare. So thank you.
Absolutely. I just echo that as well. I think what you're doing, you're already doing what you can do to affect change. You're here, you're being part of the conversation, you're taking steps towards being a person who is going to provide care in the best way that you can. And I think that's where we get change, finding those people and getting them into the right positions so that we can all work together to provide the best quality care we can.